I always love when anything that comes from the broader psychological community gets funneled through the mainstream, because I think that part of what's broken in our society is that we don't have enough psychology infused in how we see ourselves and how the world operates and functions. So I'm happy that people are talking about self-care. I just want to make sure that we're talking about it in the right way and that we get to use it in the right way. And one of the biggest things that comes up a lot that I see for folks is this piece around setting and maintaining important relationship boundaries and really knowing what that means and what that looks like. The other ones that I listed, you may, listeners, you may hear yourself more resonating with some of those than the others. But for me, fundamentally, self-care is about recognizing that it's not always about getting everything that you want. That's an unrealistic approach to life. That's an unrealistic goal. There is real space for empathy and caring and consideration. There's a real space for wanting to ensure reciprocity in care, consideration in your important relationships as much as possible. The part about it is that you have to also be at your best self in order to be able to do those other parts very well. And I think it is far easier because there's always going to be somebody that wants something from you, right?
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Just help us understand. What does it mean? Be at your best self. A lot of times people use that kind of verbiage, right? But
yes.
To the everyday layman who's not in that world, like myself, if someone says, "Oh, you are really checking all of it today,"
lay person, lay human.
Wait a minute. It takes me back. Quick story. Takes me back to philosophy class. 1990. Sitting in intro to philosophy. And a professor who I won't name, but he actually used the term. And one of the people in the room raised their hand and said, you keep talking about men and man, but you're not including women. Does it just not apply to women? And he looked straight-faced and said, women are implied. And he kept talking. And I remember my mouth dropping and going, wow,
yeah.
Wow.
Thanks for letting me be an implication and not a whole being. Thanks.
Right. Wow. I honestly didn't even know how to respond to that. But again, this was the early 90s. A lot of the things that are happening now and a lot of the education, or shall I say re-education around things just didn't exist. And, you want to get an A, you do what you need to do. But it's just, I think it's really important that we do. And it's not being politically correct. It's being inclusive. And those are two different things, I believe.
Yes, I agree.
To use that properly.
Yeah.
But when we talk about the whole concept of being your best self, what are we thinking about there? What's that all about?
For me, it means that you are at your optimal capacity, which, let me say it this way, because for me, it's also, I think sometimes people think that I got to be on all the time. For me, when you're operating at your optimal capacity is when you're able to be honest about what your capacity is. And that in the places and spaces you need to be, whether that's at work or in school or in your family serving some role or engaged in the community in whatever way you do, that you are honest about what you have to give and you give that.
So for us everyday folks, are you trying to say,
I don't know how to make it more everyday than that.
You just keep it real. You just keeping it real, right?
No,
I'm everyday folk, right? Don't worry about the degrees and all that other kind of foolishness. I'm everyday people.
Everyday people.
Everyday people.
Listen,
and I need everyday terms. You coming with this doctorate Okay. With these hoity-toity words. You just want us to keep it real, Dr. Nikki? Is that what you're saying?
No, because I think that people take that the wrong way. I think when people say, I'm just keeping it real, son, it means that you could just be nasty and say whatever you want to people whenever. That's not also, no, that's for me, that's not being your best self.
Oh, say that again. Because I think there's some people, I know some people who need to hear that. Ha ha.
For me, keeping it real, keeping it hundo, keep it 100.
Keep it 100, son.
That is not a blank check to act an ass out in the world.
Right.
You can be honest and still be compassionate. You can be honest and still be caring. You can be honest and still be tempered in your words. You can be honest and genuine and have empathy for the other person that you're talking to.
And I really wanted you to say that, because I think that the thing that is often missing from these conversations, being your best self, or my favorite, the millennial phrase, which I employ sometimes, living my truth, you'll find people saying, I'm just living my truth. I don't like you, so I need you to leave. Like that, saying those kinds of things. What's lacking is the real compassion and the empathy. And you can live your truth. You can be your best self. You can keep it real, and you could still have compassion for the other person's feelings.
Yes. So I actually have here in my own show notes, literally I have a quote here: putting yourself first, but not in disregard to others.
Right.
You have to be able to find a space. And so I guess what I say is, I think human beings, we're complicated, and that's a good thing. That means we have the capacity to be able to do both of those things at the same time. What I also think is simultaneously happening with this whole keep it real and speaking, speaking my truth, speaking from my truth. I don't know. Clearly,
live your truth. Live it. Wait a minute. Let me get that snap in there. Live it. Okay.
That's a hard snap you got.
I know. I put my finger too close to the mic.
My God. But your fingers are stinking here now. What I think is really happening with those people is a lack of self-compassion. You don't have enough self-care, enough self-compassion, so you're not able to really externalize that to other people in the world. Now, trust me, anybody that knows me knows that I'm not like on some old hippy dippy, just spread love and peace wherever you go. Like that's not, I'm not that like stereotype of like, I'm not wearing a long flowing skirt with daisies in my hair, smelling like patchouli and giving love and, holding crystals in my hand. I'm not like, I'm not meaning.
So what's wrong with that person? What's wrong with that person? So what if you were?
I think there is a place for people like that in this world, and we are grateful for them. At the same time, I think that sometimes people give them the eye roll, like, who are you? Like, how are you this happy all the time?
Right.
It
is a bit, it's, it's funny when you're talking about even showing the compassion and being compassionate, it's, I don't want to say annoying, but I can see how a person who walks in real joy can be annoying to so many people because so many of us are miserable. Right?
Yeah.
Like if I'm just being, if we're just going to quote, if we're keeping it real, right? If we're living in our truth in this podcast, there's so many people who are miserable, so many people who are stressed. And even as we break down the concepts of self-care, we're asking people to maintain a balance, which is more work. That's what some people may hear. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they may not be in a place where they either are willing to do the work or capable of doing the work. Maybe they don't have the resources. Maybe they don't have, they are emotionally tired. They're spent at the end of their day. So this is difficult stuff for a lot of us. And so this person with the crystals coming around, Here you go, right? Coming up in here singing "Don't Worry, Be Happy" or "Happy" by Pharrell. You know what I'm saying? Like that's problematic for some. I get it.
And I'm one of those people for which it can be problematic for. So that's why I wanted to put that out there.
Your truth. Snap over here. Okay. I'm not putting this, exactly. Soft snap to the left.
Soft snap. I am one of those people myself. And so so I can think of two people in my life that are close to me that I hold dear. And they are both both of them stay in that space of positivity and cultivating joy and putting a positive reframe on lots of things. Like it comes as second nature to them. And sometimes it can be annoying. What makes them loving and real to me is that I have also seen them in times of struggle. And I've also seen them be able to really kind of give voice and talk to when they're not in their best space. I think they have a better practice of coming out of it than some of us. And I think the reason why they're able to do that is because I think they have a more balanced perspective on kind of the big picture of life, right? So maybe a longer scope on things so that their viewpoint and where they sit is in a different place than some of us who are more focused on the here and now and kind of what's right in our face and what we're dealing with.
Right. And it's funny even saying that. I just got to throw in, as we're talking and I'm saying to myself, I wonder if some of the people I know think I'm that person with the patchouli and the crystals, because again, and I think this is cultural. Don't be that one. Don't be that one. Don't do that.
I just want to let you know.
Can we take a moment? I need a moment mid-podcast to acknowledge the shade, how cool it became on this side of the podcast. I mean, that shade was Redwood, California. Anyway.
Let me retract my branches.
Please do. Please do.
As you were saying.
It's a mild day. I don't need that much shade. Thank you very much. No, but seriously, I find myself when I'm up in these streets, right? Dealing with this one, that one, and the third. I don't take my personal stuff, my Dupee deeps, shall we say, to people, right? So a lot of what I'm going through comes across as a smile. Oh, I'm so happy for you. Oh, I'm excited about you. And so when the response is, how are you doing? Oh, I'm doing great. And it's almost this glee that masks what's really going on, because I'm not really going to take that into the streets. So I think, when we're talking about those people who are genuinely happy, there is a difference between that person who's genuinely walking in joy and those of us, and I'll include myself in this, who walk in joy in public, but deal with some real stuff in private. And I think that's why that self-care is even more important for people like myself, right?
So I like the way that you had phrased it earlier in terms of I can't remember, something about self-care is the things you need to do. So something you said, I don't know. I really like the way the way I think about it is your capacity to get engaged in self-care increases your capacity for dealing with stress or dealing with negativity or dealing with chaos, unexpected yada in your life. So it increases your kind of internal reserves, your internal capacity to deal with stuff as it comes your way. And I think at least for the people in my life that I'm thinking of, I think that the people in my life that I'm thinking of that I think cultivate joy and walk it more in a space of joy and seem to radiate a higher degree of peace, genuine peace around things. I think it's because they have perfected the art of self-care, and that it may come to them as even more second nature than it does for maybe some of us for whom that doesn't come as easily. so that they're able to bounce back a little bit quicker